How important is the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you think their tactics, particularly in Ferguson and Baltimore, have been effective?
I don't think the Black Lives Matter movement has done much good. To be totally honest here, okay. So I think that we do have some problems with violence against black people in this country. Okay, that's true, and I think that's worth looking into. And there have been some cases of police misconduct towards African Americans. Okay, the thing is that that's very, very rare. And in these cases, Black Lives Matter has gone after, like Ferguson, the police officer was totally cleared. Baltimore, I think the police officer facing the highest charges was actually an African American, okay? So trying to paint all these as an example of racism is not really honest. And you should think of the tactics they use. A lot of these protesters come from low-income neighborhoods, and they riot, and they destroy businesses in African American neighborhoods, which hurts a lot of African Americans. And also, you have to think of the rhetoric. A lot of the rhetoric's anti-cop. Like, you may have seen that video with marchers saying, like, pigs in the blanket, fighting like bacon, in reference to cops. A lot of these, so I think that a lot of this is unhealthy. I think it's fun to have a good discussion on race, so I think we have to pay attention to facts and what actually happened.
I agree that rioting and violence is unhealthy. But what's been interesting is to see the reaction from the white side of the country, particularly at Donald Trump rallies. Donald Trump, at one of his rallies, called for the roughing up of a Black Lives Matter movement.
Well,
protest.
I think he just doesn't like any protesters, depending.
That may be, but
I mean, I will admit it's wrong to say you should rough up protesters, but these protesters are being sent by groups to these rallies.
They are,
and they are being disruptful.
Yeah.
But But I don't think it's necessarily that because it's a Black Lives Matter protester. I think like Donald Trump just, he's Donald Trump. He does not like protesters in general.
Well, but his supporters, I think more importantly that his supporters are sort of going after these people with physical violence. We've seen video surface of Trump supporters punching black protesters in the face. And I think that this is sort of reminiscent of
we had a video of a black Trump supporter punching a white protester.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is that I think that there's been a reaction on the lower class white side where we've sort of seen a competition between these two groups to win politicians' approval, and obviously they've won. The white protester, the white lower class movement has won Donald Trump's support, and I think that it's scary and at the same time interesting to see the brown shirting that's happening at some of these events, meaning that we have like two political factions literally clashing together in physical violence. This is something that's reminiscent of the Weimar Republic and Hitler's rise. This is pretty scary stuff.
Well, I wouldn't compare Trump to Hitler. I mean,
well, I'm not saying
I'm not a big fan of Trump or his ideology, or at least Trump's ideology in general either. But I wouldn't compare him to Hitler, though.
Well, I'm not going to either. But I think that the tactics displayed by some of the supporters of Trump have been reminiscent of Nazi brown shirts in the 30s. So the other thing I think is that the Black Lives Matter movement has been effective on the Democratic side, not on the Republican side at all. The Democratic presidential campaigns have sort of extended an olive branch to these movements, and it's sort of been a forced thing. Like, I don't think they wanted to, but I think that this movement has sort of forced them into a discussion about race in a way that they wouldn't have.
Yeah, but they're also, you have to remember the flaws of the movement. They're pretty much going after cops. Do they ever really talk about black on black violence? What do you think's a bigger problem for African Americans? Police killing them, or police killing African Americans, or other African Americans killing other
I think that
that's an interesting point.
I think I do understand that there's a lot of black on black violence, but I think that the idea is that, so you have black on black violence, but the idea is that the police are supposed to be there to like help. So when people have black on black violence and then they have police on black violence,
right,
that might make them feel worse. Like the police is supposed to they're supposed to help you, but now you're sort of friend has turned is sort of portrayed as an enemy to many of people in lower income black
Yeah, but the
communities.
thing is that sometimes they push false narratives. Like, look at Ferguson. Remember the hands up, don't shoot thing? No, that was proved totally false. And still they used it. And I don't think they ever apologized for using that. Because it was a totally false narrative, the hands up, don't shoot thing. That never happened. In reality, he charged a police officer. He actually attacked him. The police officer was injured. There's some scruffs inside his car. Then he ran back. They tried to go after him again, okay?
Well, I'm not going to defend the tactics of the Black Lives Matter movement.
You also have to remember that police violence like this, there are some cases, like I think, remember that case in South Carolina, that was caught on video? Like that, the guy who's
Yeah.
at a traffic stop, that's tragic, okay?
Well-
And I think we can all say that is terrible, okay? But I don't think there's any use to go after police that are doing their jobs.
I don't either, but I think that one of the most important messages to take away from this is that when people are unsatisfied with the way things are going in the country, the reaction in the lower classes is to blame people of other races in the same class as them. That's a problem that goes back to the Revolutionary War and before that, when whites were dissatisfied with the way things were going and they targeted other people of other races. And I think that's what the elites want. They want people going after themselves instead of going after them, who are actually causing their problems, who are actually making them poor. You look at Donald Trump. He's attracting many blue-collar voters who have been sort of left behind by the globalized economy and all that. But Donald Trump is sort of saying, look, it's the immigrants' fault, or it's the blacks' fault. He's not saying
Did you ever
that.
say anything was the blacks' fault?
Okay, well, he's saying that it's the immigrants' fault, and I think that is an important distinction. He's not saying it's the elite's fault. It's the people who signed these trade agreements. It's the people who these are the people that put you out of work. It's the CEOs who are moving their businesses or their manufacturing plants to other countries, and I think that's an important message, that whenever people are dissatisfied in the United States, the reaction from the lower classes is always to go after the other races in the lower class instead of going after the elites who are actually responsible for their unhappiness.
Oh yeah, so speaking of that, I like to apply this to Black Lives Matters movement. It seems that a lot of people are going after the police because they see these things, and some of these there is a reason to get angry behind them, but most of them, they're false, like the Ferguson case. But in reality, I think the real problem is that we have really incompetent leadership in some of these cities. We have no charter schools so that people can't get out of these terrible schools. It's true. Look at Baltimore. Look at where a bunch of these rioters came from in Baltimore. High
We're not
schools.
debating
They
charter
came from
schools
schools.
right
Hey, you got to Donald Trump rallies. I can get into Baltimore.
All right.
Baltimore is mentioned in the question, okay?
No.
So I think what we should really go after is, instead of like police officers, should go after stuff that, I'm fine with body cameras. I'm fine with things that can prevent any of these terrible events from happening. But we should go after politicians who are really pushing bad policies. We should go after unions so that we can have charter schools. We should go after black-on-black crime, okay?
I'm not going to debate charter schools with you right now.
No, you were talking about Donald Trump rallies.
I know, but
Donald
Donald Trump has been pushing a race narrative.
What was in the question? How important is the Black Lives Matters movement? Do you think their attacks, particularly in Ferguson, Baltimore, has been effective? Nothing about Donald Trump. There's something about Baltimore, and charter schools is directly referencing Baltimore.
Well, charter schools are not. The lack of charter schools is not the reason why.
Oh, it's a big
people are
problem.
poor.
A lot of these kids that were rioting in Baltimore came out from the school. They're skipping
All right,
school.
We're getting a little
So
off
if-
topic. We're gonna move on to the next question.
Actually, yeah, let
Well,
me.
if we want to get back on track
Yeah,
here,
you're right.
All right, go ahead.
I think that obviously I don't condone the rioting. I think that sort of is the opposite of what they should be doing. They're sort of destroying their own community instead of coming together like they should be. But I do think that one of the big trends that came with the Black Lives Matter movement was like how they all got people always recorded things on their phones. So
That's an
this was
interesting
like
point,
they always, at least in most of the cases, of course there were some cases where it was false, which is unfortunate, but in most of the cases people were videotaping the the police brutality, and they were able to display it to the world on the internet. The people who were part of that movement did a very good job of sort of raising awareness for the police brutality. I remember there was a time, like, it sort of died down a little bit now, but like
There was a
back a
time-
few months ago, there was a time where like every single day on the news you
Yeah.
hear like police brutality. It was all over.
But not all of it was actually police brutality, though. Like in
Well, that's
Yeah.
a different issue. You're saying like they sort of popularized
it was
the,
like-
the the handheld recording of
Yeah,
that,
like-
and that's never really
like in
happened
like
before.
for
But
like
yeah,
the
recording's good, I think.
like the parachuting, like we hear about that every day. Like everyone changed their Facebook profile pictures. It was a huge thing. It was a similar case here. Everyone was talking about police brutality. I even had like some friends on Facebook who had put Black Lives Matter as their cover photo. Like it was. I think they did do a good job at really raising awareness, which I think was something that they did well.